Ladies and gentlemen, Seahawks fans of all ages, welcome to the 12 Talk podcast. We're back. We're live again. We're ready to answer your questions, and we've got a lot of subjects to cover. So, my name's Josh. This is my co-host, Mitch. Mitch, how you doing?
Hello. Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. It feels like a really, really important week we're about to have, rather than the one we're talking about. But we could talk a little bit about the week we think we're about to have. And we're 2 weeks out from the draft. It's crunch time for strategy and preparation, and so it's a huge week. So I'm on edge. I'm feeling really excited. I've got kind of a nervous energy about what's to come. And just really sort of eager to get going with the draft stuff.
Yeah, I think it's that like real build up to the draft now where everything's happening, and we've got the visits that we're going to talk about, and players that we all think we should sign, and then we've got people coming in, and we've still got the free agency moves. It's such a big week that's happening right now. I mean, this week we're going to be talking all about like the latest news. There's some bits and bobs that have gone on. We're going to talk about the pre-draft signings that we've made. We've made a signing for a left guard that we'll talk about as well. We've got the top 30 visits, and then we're going to look at a mock draft because it's mock draft season. And in that mock draft, we're going to be looking specifically with these top 30 visits. Are there people there in the positions we get to that we may want to draft? Let us know what you think. By all means, get in the chat. Let us know your thoughts. If you've got any questions, ask away. We're here. We're more than happy to ask them. But, Mitch, should we hit the theme music?
Let's do it.
Let's do this. And we are in. Right, Mitch.
Yes.
It's happening. It is the build up to the draft. We've not got long left. We've had some bits happen. But before we talk about specific Seahawks stuff, should we talk about a little bit of news that's come out?
Let's do it.
Specifically, I want to talk about one of my favorite past Seahawks current news subjects. Russell Wilson has come out saying that he helped pave the way for black quarterbacks in the NFL. What?
Well, I completely agree with him. I think he's talking absolute sense. And no, joking. I just do that. I get a reaction. Who was the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl?
That is a very good question.
Because he may have been one of the first. I don't know if he was the first. There surely had to be one before him.
Only 3 have won the Super Bowl. Mahomes, Doug Williams, and Wilson.
Okay. That's not good for disproving his point.
Yeah, I know.
I don't want to agree with him. And I mean, there's been more franchise quarterbacks than just Russell Wilson in the past couple of decades, right? There's plenty of notable, and there's also Hall of Fame quarterbacks that are black. So he is not even one of those yet. So let's not get carried away with his legacy as a pioneering black quarterback. He is one of, though, the first in what was a real I don't want to call it a tidal wave, but this generation, he kind of started that with the sort of wave of was it Cam Newton and him.
Mm-hmm.
There's Dak, and there's a few that were like a precursor to the Mahomes generation as well. So he was kind of part of the kick up a gear that clearly happened. But I think he's kind of creating a bit of a legacy for himself there, a little bit.
It's shameless self-promotion. It really infuriates me. I mean, I am not a fan of this whole divide. I mean, the way I see it, players are players, regardless of your color. I don't really look at where you're from, who you are, what skin color you are. But you look at the likes of Michael Vick, Steve McNair. You know, you've got a plethora, and that's just two. I could go on. The list is pretty extensive. Fair play, Russell Wilson, as a quarterback of color, won a Super Bowl. But I wouldn't say he paved the way. I understand that, like what you said, there was this whole thing of, in bygone eras, quarterbacks typically were these 6'5" Caucasian guys who could command an NFL team. Utter BS, in my opinion, because anyone should be able to do it. If you're talented enough, you can do it. I had to bring that up because it really, really infuriated me, because it just again lends to the ego that Russ has now, and I just can't.
I mean, I'd really like it if he adjusted his statement to black dwarf the quarterback, because I think in that respect he's kind of pioneered it, you know. And
Yeah.
so
yeah,
I
can't. I don't get it. So that's one bit of news. I had to bring it up because anyone that's listened to us before will know that as soon as that name comes up, I just can't let it slide. I think he's just too full of himself right now. Also, the press conference has happened, and one statement of note for me came from Uchenna Nwosu, where he had a fantastic bit where he got to talk about all of his charity work in Africa, but he also spoke about the fact that he now thinks that the Seahawks have the right coaches to help drive them forward.
Yeah. Interesting one, because you wonder whether he's throwing shade or whether he felt like the scheme was a little outdated. And I think if you go back about a month, there was Draymond Jones reacting to something on Twitter where someone had called him like the worst value free agent that was picked up last year, and he commented that the scheme and the personnel on the D line wasn't a great fit, and he was perhaps a little bit affected by that. I don't particularly like that. I feel like you can
bit of a cop out.
Defending yourself by throwing others under the bus is never an ideal action. There's a bit of Jamal Adams about that. But what I would say is that I feel there's a lot of truth in it. And with Nwosu's comments now, I feel like there might be a little bit of overlap in where they're both coming from, but I much prefer the way Nwosu went about saying it. Asked a direct question about it, gave an honest answer about it, and kind of left it to our imaginations to kind of, without putting himself too much in the spotlight. So I do think though that Clint Hurt's defense put players, especially the front three, in positions regularly where their assignment was very what's the word? It wasn't very defined. They were all having to be all rounders all the time. Whereas Mike Mack's scheme up front, you're calling a defensive play, right? As like an offensive play, but on the defensive side. So pre-snap, you already know what your assignment is. With that, it's if they do this, you're this, and if they're doing that, you're that. And it kind of, you need really quick cerebral players that have got really rounded skill sets to be able to do Clint Hurt's style. And I think Draymond Jones drafted in. This is what you are now. Go. I understand his frustration and why he's defended himself in that way. Nwosu obviously now has a more defined role to play, and I think that he'll benefit from that. Whether that's the coach's fault or not is
it? Yeah, I think it was asking people like Jones to do more than he was experienced with or capable of. They're like two of the big things for me. It's and Max said this. It's finding the players that we've got on our roster and using them to their strengths. So we all know that a player like Jones, you don't drop him into coverage, you don't ask him to do too much, just let him be himself. And I think that's where he might have a bit of a breakout season. I'm not saying that, just to put it out there for anyone listening or watching live. I'm not saying he's a breakout season, but I hope he's going to at least show his worth, because he commands a lot of money for what little he offered last season. I think there's a lot of players that could do really well here, but we'll talk about in a separate pod afterwards. They were the two main bits of news, but I think it's worth talking about pre-draft. We've said in the last couple of pods how John Schneider likes to set himself up for the draft and how he likes to sign players before the draft, so he's then not clutching really, really hard or reaching really, really hard to find spots in the roster that someone can fit in. And we've just signed a guard. Who well, let's face it, guard is one of those positions that we have been so desperate for in this offseason, especially. In fact, let's face it, in the last few seasons, because since Delu moved from right guard, where in his rookie season he was phenomenal, we then signed Gabe Jackson, so which meant the necessity was Delu had to move to left guard, which took some time to get used to. He's obviously then moved on to the Panthers, and we've now signed Laken Tomlinson on a vet minimum deal. Well, Mitch, what do you think?
I feel like we have a starting caliber O-line now. I feel like it's middling to lower middle, like 18th, 19th, level in, at 32. However, there is a wealth of competition there now with driven young talent behind starting players, and I think it just needs a little sprinkle of talent in there now from the draft that doesn't need to be first round or second round, because we don't have one. It doesn't need to be
at the moment.
Yeah, true. At the moment, it doesn't need that in order to elevate it, but a couple of names in the draft are really enticing, slightly lower down. And you've got to remember as well, if you take a fourth round O lineman this year, it's closer to an early third round lineman, due to the fact there are so many high quality linemen pushing players down. So it's a brilliant year to pick up a lineman if you like getting bargain basement good deals. And John Schneider has never at any point been keen to invest draft capital into interior O-line on day 1 and 2 generally. So it suits him down to the ground. He'll be able to pick up something cheap and get a tune out of it, hopefully. So, yeah, I think that's starting to suit John. And it ties into what you just said. I think with the amount of bodies that have been signed for that O-line, there's no immediate urgency to fill the spots. There is, however, I think an urgency to improve the level of quality, but no immediate. You wouldn't look now at the Seahawks in round 1 and go categorically that's an O lineman. You could go, okay, well they've signed a lot of bodies, that could be a D lineman now, and that's the spot John Schneider wants to be in. He doesn't want to paint himself into a corner where everyone knows who you're going to take, so we're going to get above you and take the guy before you pick him. If they think we might be in for Johnny Newton or Byron Murphy, they might sort of, okay, well maybe it's not for Tani, maybe we can sit, and then maybe a trade offer comes our way to take us off a player as well. You don't want to be predictable if you look to maximize the situations that arise. So
I agree. I think the Laken Tomlinson was just it's one of those, they're experienced guards who isn't top of his class, but he's middling. He's there or thereabouts. He'll help solidify that line. He's got some experience. And when you think him at left guard, Bradford at right guard. Then if we draft anyone, whether they sit behind Tomlinson and just learn from a vet or they supersede him, absolutely fine. I'm leaning further and further towards looking at this draft class and how strong it is with the linemen. I have a feeling we're going to take possibly 2 or 3, depending on how many more picks we can move around. I think it's one of those building ones for just the line in general, whether it's D line, O line. Like I said, because there are so many, especially O linemen in this draft that have been moved down because of other players that have excelled above them. We said it in the last pod, where it's not necessarily like players are bad. It's the fact there are players in more premium positions that are seen as slightly better or more needy that have sort of elevated themselves. But yeah, I think it's what Tomlinson's 32 now.
Yeah, he's got 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
if he plays well this year, he could get himself a renewal. I don't think he'll be on our roster any further than 2 years. But one thing I'd say about what you've just said there as well, like you've gone on from what I said about the tackles and interior linemen going early in the draft and pushing players down. I think also this year we're going to see a really high caliber of undrafted free agents for the O-line, because a lot of the teams that are needy for O-line depth and quality are going to start snapping up first round graded O linemen that drop out of the first round, guys that they've seen at the combine that they thought might be day 2 picks that drop into 3, and they know the player, they know the character, and they think, okay, well, I'm going to take him as an absolute steal in round 3. Suddenly you'll have players dropping into UDFA positions. And I think there's a few we've had in on visits, actually, which we'll touch on a bit later, that are probably, we want to have a personal relationship with them. So when we are one of 15 franchises trying to get a signature out of them, all offering a similar wage, they know us and they know the coaching staff and they know they know the building, right? They've been there. So I think there's an element of that with our visits, which we'll touch on when we get there. But yeah, there'll be some deals, and John Schneider likes an O-line deal because he doesn't like paying them, does he? So he set that up well.
I'm not sure if that's supposed to be sort of a smoke screen for him. He doesn't want to pay for them, but there are some premium O-line players that can go first and second round that would elevate this O-line straight away. When you look at, we had Charles Cross in the first round. Did we get 9 or 10? 9th, yeah. Who is still yet to? He's a starting quality left tackle, but I'm waiting to see him step up to that next level and be that dominant left tackle. Abe Lucas, if his knee gets sorted out, he will be starting right tackle for years to come. It's that just that middle of the O-line. And if we can fill that with some youth, I think Bradford's got potential if he can get his pass pro sorted. Like run blocking, absolute mauler, just throws people around and creates gaps. Center, we've got Olu, which hopefully this season will be a breakout season for him. It's just that left guard spot then. And I think this is where Tomlinson will come in and be that vet on the line. And if we can draft someone to work behind him, absolutely fine. But the title of this pod was Sleepers in Seattle. I'm not going to lie, very proud of the promo. Very proud of Mitch for coming up with that title as well. He fed that to me and I thought, what can I do? Anyone who's of a certain age that has seen the film Sleepers in Seattle, I'm not going to lie, I have ripped off the movie poster from that. something manic. But we're going to talk about the top 30 visits. So we'll go through who's come in, their positions, where we think, or what we think of them, where we think they may fit within our roster, this team now. I've got some that I want to talk about. I will say wholeheartedly, Mitch is the man with these stats and facts. He's looking at me going,
no pressure.
No pressure, mate, no pressure. But before we go on, please, anyone who's watching, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share, tell your mum, your gran, if she's a Seahawks fan, your dad, your pops, your cousins, whoever. We just really appreciate everyone that's tuning in, because every single week we seem to build more and more and more, and it's really appreciated. You can also follow us on Instagram. It's all up there. X, we've got a Facebook page as well. And also you can join our Discord, of which I'll be very honest, it's been a very hectic week with having my 4-year-old daughter off school, so I've not been able to dip in as much as I used to. But every time I dip in, there's always stuff going on, and it's always perpetuated by this man here, my co-host. And today, when we do our mock at the end of this, we're going to be using Walk the Mock. If you haven't seen Walk the Mock, it is my new personal favorite. I love all the information it gives you. I think it's very up to date with their sort of their draft prospects of where they need to land. You can also use, if you do want to subscribe, the code 12Talk at checkout, whether you go for a monthly or an annual subscription, that'll get you 20% off. So by all means, go for it. You know, if you do, if you don't, it's up to you. Everyone's got their own personal preference, but we're going to be using Walk the Mock from now on because it is chef's kiss. So, Mitch, top 30 visits.
First one I want to talk about is, I'll tell you what I want to talk about first, if it's okay with you. Some of the unknown names that people may be scratching around for information on. I thought we'd talk about a couple of those first, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
First one's a pretty up-to-date bit of news, which is Michael Jarrell, who is a guard from the University of Findlay. He's a 6'5" guard who has also played tackle, projected as a UDFA / 7th round pick before his pro day, which is really key to this. So he played at the University of Findlay. He actually was voted 4 times for all conference offensive line, not a starting player, but was selected in, got an honorable mention, was selected in the squad, right, for all conference. So he goes to Ohio State's pro day, because let's face it, if the University of Findlay did a pro day, you're not going to get much exposure.
I'll be very honest. I didn't even know that was a university in the US. So I apologize to anyone that may watch this who is like a member or like an alum of the University of Findlay. I'll do some research.
Yeah, so he turns up at Ohio, right, and does his pro day. Doesn't go to the combine, didn't get an invite. Proceeds to have a 9.27 relative athletic score with 98 percentile scores for all athletic testing.
Holy hell.
He had a 4.8 second 40 for a 6'5", 310 pound offensive guard. With a 99, I think it was 99 percentile 10-yard split. So insanely quick, really, really big. The reason that he's under the radar is the level he was playing at, but his level of play always got him acknowledgement with being selected into the all-conference O-line. So he's got the measurables. He had a 33-inch vertical as well. Honestly, it looks like one of those made up relative athletic scores, but you can find it on his Twitter page. I followed him today because I really think he's going to be a really good draft day story. I believe he was taken out for dinner by the Eagles after they obviously got the vibe that if he is a UDFA, they want the inside track. But I think that pro day performance has really elevated him to being a day 3 pick, honestly. But yeah, it's really long armed, really good quickness, really good athletic testing, versatility of playing guard and tackle at college. Honestly, I love the story. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it on draft day.
It's such a Seahawks pick as well. So it's the the relative unknown who's performed so well, who could come in and after a year or two of learning pro football rather than college football, that'd be amazing. I love the fact that the Eagles, for me, being a rugby fan as well, picking someone like Jordan Mailata, who had never played a snap of football in his life and has now gone on to be a starting O lineman. He's won 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, 2.
Either way, he's an absolute dude as well. Like you follow anything that he's on, he just seems like an absolute star. If they can pick those people out of the ether and they can pick someone like this and they take him out for dinner, then that's a good sign for me.
Yeah, they really wanted to make an impression on him, I think. And but he's from Indianapolis as well. The kid's from Indianapolis. I actually went and watched a video of an interview with him before we did the pod. It's one of the last things I did before I came on, and I've been absolutely chomping at the bit to just give him give him his flowers, because he was asked about what he wants to do after football. They asked him like, what do you want to do when when you get to an NFL team if you're drafted? And he was straight onto I want to pick the minds of the vets. I want to earn my spot on the roster and earn my spot in the start, in the starting lineup. And I want to get as much as I can out of the vets and just hone my skills. And they asked him what he wanted to do afterwards, and he said he wanted to have his own apparel company doing sneakers. I think you're muted. Are you muted? Oh,
try again. So you're saying apparel? Like, do you mean like apparel?
Apparel. Yeah, there you
apparel.
Go. Sorry.
He wants a clothing line, basically.
Yeah, he wants a clothing line.
As someone who owns his own, yeah, mate.
Yeah, no, you just go ahead and correct me. That's fine.
I'm now going to call it an apparel line. That's it. We're posh.
Sorry, it was a very Tory way of saying it, wasn't it? So, but the reason they asked him why that was, and he said that growing up, there were, he and friends of his hadn't been able to have like sneakers. Mm-hmm. There was always hand-me-downs or thrift store stuff, and he said he really wanted to be in a position to give things to children that don't have them, and that was the thing from his childhood that he wished he'd had, and it was just a lasting thing that he wanted to make an impact to the communities and to children. So I absolutely love that he's already planning on being as successful as possible so he can give back. Most people going into the draft are just thinking about that, and he's already thinking, I need to have a good career so that I can do something like that that's meaningful. So probably spent far too long on a guy that will be undrafted. But I absolutely had to give him his flowers for being such an inspiration at this point. So Michael Jarrell, University of Findlay, offensive guard. Keep your eyes peeled. That could be a great draft story.
Nice. I mean, I said before, like I'm all about a player that we don't necessarily know about, but could become a really good rotational piece to start with, and then become a starter. Mitch, who else have we got? We've got a list.
Yeah, we do. I'm going to go O-line again. We're going to do Travis Glover next. Mm-hmm. So Travis Glover's a similar story, apart from the fact, I mean, he plays O-line. Tackle and guard again, highly athletic again, but Georgia State, not the Georgia State, which is part of the reason why he is not projected higher than he is. However, he had a superb Senior Bowl after he was called up as a backup. They didn't have enough O-line that had accepted the invites, so he got extended one. And that is the absolute dream for a guy that's biggest slight on him is the quality of opponent he's faced, because it gives you center stage with the toughest game of your life in terms of the quality you're up against. Stage is yours, off you go. And he shone. He had a really good game, and I really think that it removed a lot of the concerns about the quality of his college opposition. And then you add in high athletic grades, versatility of playing multiple positions on the O-line. You suddenly become a slightly unproven mid-round pick with athletic upside and versatility, and I think that's why he's been in for a visit, because they will have wanted to finish off that picture of this unknown. They've got all of those bits. They know what's the character like. If so, because otherwise, if you draft a guy like that with a mid-round pick, people are like, "Who was that? From what college?" Another terrible, O-line pickup on day two, and the character thing had to be right if you're going to appear to reach on a guy. I think.
No, I think the people we've had in, I think our O-line is. I think we're trending a certain way. I think let's run off some of the other unnotable ones, and then we've got a few that might be of interest to people as well. And obviously, when we do the mock draft, when we start talking about who's available, we can do some more info as well. There's a few that I want to sort of shine a light on.
So you want me to read out a few? Yeah. So
go for it.
Grayson Murphy, UCLA defensive end, slightly smaller DE. He's like 6'2", 6'3", about 240. So you're looking at the kind of guy that more like a Maffei kind of build. Although Maffei's obviously outside linebacker, but in some fronts he'll be a DE, and that's the kind of role he plays. Pass rush specialist, stands up well against the run as well, so fairly rounded. Who else we got? Tyrese Knight, linebacker from UTEP, slightly smaller, usually projects more as a will linebacker. Last year, 4.5 sacks, 7 passes defensed, and 15 TFLs combined with 140 tackles combined.
Just quickly with Grayson Murphy as well, because everyone thinks about Latu when they go to UCLA.
Yeah.
Last year he had, just reading this off, 32 total tackles, 23 solo, 9 assists. He had 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles as well. So he's no slouch.
Production, yeah.
For a defense that was predicated purely on having Latu rush, he fed so well off the off the scraps essentially, of all that concentration on Latu. So he was one of my guys I wanted to discuss. So I thought I'd get it in there. So
no, absolutely. Well, I think if you imagine running backs and quarterbacks being flushed out of the pocket by Latu from one side, they're inevitably going to end up in your lap if you're the opposite end. And honestly, that's where you really need a guy to be diverse in their skill set. If it was just a pass rusher that couldn't stop running backs, you're going to flush a lot of running backs to a guy that can't handle it. You really do have to be reliable on the other side. You don't have to be as flashy as Latu on the other side, but you do have to be a dependable, versatile guy on the other end, and he was that. And like you say, just picked up the scraps. On Tyrese Knight, who we just touched on, lots of coverage stats, lots of run stuffing stats, lots of pass rushing stats. It speaks to a guy who's very diverse. However, the measurables aren't really there, and the athletics not really there. But the instincts are good. The skill set is good, and that is why he's being sort of looked at as a day 3 prospect, possibly even undrafted. And my comp for him actually is someone who's already on the roster, and that's Drake Thomas, a guy who grades well in coverage and was actually picked up to avoid him hitting UDFA status. Right, I think he was taken in the 7th by Falcons.
No, I think it was Raiders, wasn't he?
Raiders, correct. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, it could be a similar story there, although has an absolutely outrageous stat sheet from last year. That's nuts. 15 TFLs, 4.5 sacks, 7 PDs, 140 tackles. It's 10 a game. Madness. Nathaniel Watson is a guy that I really like. Day 3, possibly late day 2. Green dot wearing, defensive leader, top quality communicator, slightly older prospect. I think he's 25 at the time of the draft. But you'll see a few of those this year because of the COVID years and things. Yeah. So I don't want to be too disparaging about prospects because of age, because they've not stayed in college because they don't think they've got enough tape to go, into the draft. They're literally staying on, so they actually get 2 or 3 years in college playing. No one wants to do 1 year and go to the NFL just because of COVID. So it's a recipe for ruining your career. So
And then also playing professional football and having to study for a degree if you want to. No.
Yeah.
That's too much work for my liking.
Absolutely. Christian Boyd, quickly touch on Northern Iowa. Defensive tackle, projected as a 6th-round player, nose tackle. But actually, when you read the write-up from scouts on Christian Boyd, he reads a lot like Cam Young. He's,
big old space eater.
Space eater, yes, but also very quick off the line, and tends to get a lot of penetration, which is not necessarily what you want your nose tackle to do. But he's somewhere in between the Brian Monet build, where you've got a larger space eater, and the Cam Young faster 6'3", more anchored and stout. He's somewhere in between. He's about 6'2", but the big thing that gets raved about with him is the pad level he plays at for his size and his arm length, and it means he gets really good leverage, which is the opposite of Cam Young. Cam Young was short and stout, and he's a bit more lengthy and long. So we've always had two different kinds of nose tackle on the roster. We've had a bigger and a shorter. You think Poona Ford next to Monet, you had Al Woods as well as the longer, it's different tool for different games, different matchups. So
Captain Firearms.
Yeah. And who else are we potentially not going to talk about during the mock draft? Theo Johnson, actually, I'm just going to very quickly touch on. I know we probably will talk about him, but I've got a comp here for you, and it probably shows where I stand on this. If I say Darren Waller is my comp,
decent comp,
because
I had Noah Fant.
Oh, interesting. Well, I tell you why. I tell you why I'm landing on Waller. Right, he's a guy who's absolutely dominated with outstanding athletic ability and measurables. Right, and when you read and you the scout reports and you watch him, they're absolutely right. His discipline while running routes isn't highly polished, but he wins because he's bigger and he's faster. Right, and you read things about inconsistent hands, inconsistent burst. Sometimes he looks unbelievable with his get off, and sometimes he looks quite lethargic and labored. And when you think about players transitioning into the NFL who have managed to win with an advantage with their measurables and their athletic ability, they suddenly get found out when they are not polished enough to compete with people who are just as fast, just as quick. All your advantages you leaned on disappear. And Darren Waller has had to sort of create himself in the NFL because he just didn't translate. That's my take. He's still a specimen, don't get me wrong, Darren Waller, but he is not translated to being dominant in the NFL.
Which disappoints me, because Waller's always one of those in fantasy, and I play a lot of fantasy, that I draft in the vain hope, like Michael Thomas. You after that one season, anyone who drafted him were like, that's it, that's him all the way through, and you think that's going to be it. But Waller has these seasons where it peaks and troughs so much, but the peaks are so high, but the troughs are so low and so consistent. You think, is that it? Is that what life's going to be like? And I don't get me wrong, I'd love to have Darren Waller on this team. I think he could do a great job with the right offensive plans. But is he at New York now? Is it the Giants, isn't he now?
Mm-hmm.
After Vegas, I just see. I had Noah Fant just purely, like, you look at the athleticism, you look at the route running. Whilst inconsistent, he has got the ability to stretch a field and run some great routes. He's got, like I said, inconsistent hands, but when they are consistent, like he has like the odd, I say that every 1 out of 3 games he's inconsistent, but he has 2 games where he's just dependable. That's where I put him there. I think he could be someone we look at as a Fant replacement to sit behind him for a year or two, and he could learn. Well, that's where I sort of went with that. Whether I'm right or wrong,
No, I think it's an interesting comp because Fant was the same kind of prospect, but Fant has consistently, for me at least, performed when targeted.
The NFL,
But he's been at two franchises that haven't used him, which isn't the same for Darren Waller because there's a highlight reel, or I'd probably call it a low light reel for Waller of gaffes and drops and bad moments, whereas Fant doesn't have that. He's just been underutilized. And I think with the contract we've given him, I think we're suddenly going to start seeing a regime that uses him more.
I hope so.
But I can't think of a worse landing spot than Seattle for Theo Johnson, based on what we've done historically with tight ends. The new coaching, we know nothing about that. We don't know how that's going to go. But with a tight end one established and paid in front of him, I can't think that that's going to be a good landing spot for him.
I feel the same. Well, who else have we got? Because we'll get onto our mock shortly. But who are your picks for this? Who would you like to talk about?
I'm going to mention Byron Murphy, and I know we're probably going to talk about him when we mock anyway. But today I became almost convinced. No, actually, I'm just going to say convinced. I'm going to say convinced that Byron Murphy is a Seahawk.
Okay, expand.
If you quote me on any player this pre-draft process, saying, "Well, Mitch, you said we were gonna draft this person," make sure that Byron Murphy is at the top of that list if there's multiple, and if there's only one, Byron Murphy. And I'll tell you why.
Is this your Mike Morris?
This is my Mike Morris.
This season's Mike Morris, right? Okay.
High conviction on Byron Murphy, and I'll elaborate. Right. Byron Murphy, we went and spoke to at the combine when he was pre-combine, he kind of snuck up and went past Johnny Newton, right, as the number one DT. People were really talking about it. People were hyped to see what he could do, and I think did he have an injury coming in, so he didn't actually test, or did he test? I can't remember if he did or not.
It's a good question.
No, it was Johnny. No, it was Johnny Newton that didn't. It was Johnny Newton that didn't. Yeah, which is possibly why he kind of flipped, right? We interviewed Byron Murphy at the combine, right? And then we got him to come to Seattle for another one. Mm-hmm. There is no player currently on our list of 30 visits that we had already spoken to at the combine. We'd spoken to people at the combine, and then that was it. We didn't book them in for another visit. But we did with Byron Murphy. Now, if you're because we heard that last week that John Schneider was already fielding calls about teams that wanted to come up. This week we heard Von Miller saying that he was convinced the Buffaloes were coming up to take a wide receiver. Now, if you're looking at players like Brian Thomas, Keon Coleman, wide receivers that might be there around our pick, we could be shifting back a few spots and be looking to take the best player available. There isn't much depth in the DT range for day one and day two. If you are going to do that, take the DT in round one after a trade back. Mm-hmm. Take the best available offensive lineman that fits your scheme with the second pick. Because if you do it the opposite way around, take an OT, and as much as I like Fatanu, and I want that to be the pick, for me it would be, I think our actual pick is trade back, take Johnny Newton or Byron Murphy, with Byron Murphy being choice one, and then best available OT in this with the second round pick or high third that we get in that package. That's where I think we are, and I think that's strategy A1 for John Schneider. Get a early day two pick if possible, and get both sides of the trenches sorted with the first two picks.
I like it. I think looking at the depth of this draft, I think having a DT with our first pick, whether it's back of the first start of the second, is the right way to go, because this draft is so laden with starting quality or backup quality for at least a year or two, offensive linemen. That is possibly the best way to go. Yeah. I know a lot of people have sort of mocked Latu and Verse to us and whoever else, but I think the biggest issue we've had as a team for so many years now has been the center, the middle of our O-line and D-line. There's no getting around it. It's talked about so much, but I don't think people are focusing on it that much, and it needs to be focused on. I think if you're John Schneider, you're going to look at these players and go, right, who can I get in the middle of D-line, O-line, who can fit in? I think that's a perfect strategy. So we've got O-line, D-line. Is there anyone else you want to give a shout out to before we hit our mock?
Let me just have a look through the list. Well, I'll give some honourable mentions, right? So there's Malachi Corey there from Western Kentucky, who projects to with a similar profile to D. Eskridge, widely referred to as the Yak King. Seems to be something that we're looking at addressing on our roster. However, with Laviska Shenault and Eskridge getting a prove-it deal, probably doesn't make the 53, but on the same sort of deal.
Yeah.
That ship may well have sailed. But if he falls to us, there's always a take him late or mid. I think he's projected around third, fourth. Take him, cut Eskridge, reset the clock on that wide receiver 4/gadget player. That could be a thing. Then we've got the three quarterbacks that they don't really excite me, which is Rattler, Bonix, and Plumlee, who you've mentioned. I don't think we have the need for a Plumlee anymore with our QB room.
See, as someone with heavy links to Florida and sort of UCF as well, like with Orlando, a Plumlee I could get on board with as a third choice.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't start, in my opinion. He's not one of those to be battling for a starting position. He's not a Russell Wilson. Less said about him, the better. But I'd take a punt on him to be that third choice QB. To be, he's going to be a UDFA, in my opinion. I'd take him on board. I'd bring him on, let him learn behind Gino, and yeah, he's not going to light the world on fire. But I think it's worth it for Plumlee. I mean, you look at what his stats, especially last season. What he completed 161 out of 256, so it's 62.9% completion rating. That's mid. I'll take that. Only 15 TDs, but he's got a lot of the intangibles that you want from that sort of backup quarterback. So just a practice squad player. I'd take it as a UDFA. Yeah. I wouldn't draft him. I wouldn't waste a draft on him. But I would certainly bring him in to be a practice squad player.
Well, we'll need to pick up a QB for the practice squad, and if you do, when you do, it wants to be someone who's just dropped out of the seventh. There'll be a clamour for the guys that just missed out, and I think he'll be in that category. So I'm with you on that. But yeah, that's all I want to mention, and we can obviously touch on it next week when we have another wave of players coming in, because we're starting to hear the names of players that are coming in for visits next week. So we'll have a few more names prepared for you for next week as well.
Yeah, we'll do the full review of the full top 30 visits next week. But for this week, we are going to go through our mock draft. Our mock draft, as always, presented by the UK Seahawkers. The UK Seahawkers are the UK Seahawks Booster Club. You can join for £12 a year, and you get some fantastic goodies. You get a wristband, you get your membership card, you get a fantastic, and these are really well done as well. I think I've got about 3-4 years worth behind me. Patches that all need to go on a jacket or a jersey. And this year you always get a random little tidbit, which is an RDF card. I can't remember what it's called. Basically stops your cards getting scanned when you're anywhere. And then we get national meetups every single year. This year is in Newark-on-Trent, and it's just £5 a person. It's amazing just to speak to all the UK Seahawkers just from all around like the UK and just have a nice chat, really. It's every time I've been there, it's just been a really good time just to talk about other like the teams, how we're doing, how we think it's going to go, apart from just listening to us. And also, if you're from outside the UK, you can still join as well, which makes it even better. I think, Mitch, it might be time for us to do our mock draft.
I agree. I'm ready.
Now, I'm happy to share and you can guide. How's that one going?
It's almost like you lost a bit of faith in my PC after last week's crash.
What do you mean? For anyone who wasn't tuned in last week, Mitch had some technical gremlins. So this week I'm going to go for mine. But we're going to use Walk the Mock. If you like what we're about to show you, by all means, you can join Walk the Mock. If you subscribe, you'll get 20% off using the code 12talk at checkout. I love this mock draft engine. I'm not going to lie. I just think it's one of the best ones we've seen, and we'll show you why very shortly. But we'll talk about the other top 30 visits that might be there on our board. So there you go. Here's Walk the Mock. So if we go through, obviously you've got the main dashboard. I'm going to show you all, and then you can sign up to premium, obviously, and then you see exactly what you get there for premium. So you get all the trades, that you can personalize your own draft board as well, which is fantastic, which Mitch, me and you might have to do at some point and just see who we think lands where. You can import other people's draft boards. You've got the whole draft history of your team. You've got exclusive content. You've got their traits as well, which Mitch and I will go through. And then if you just go into mock draft and you've got all these different ones. You've got real time. We can draft with other people where you join a
like a lobby. If you click if you click it, people can see. Yeah, it's really good. It allows you to join at a time that suits you. You pick your franchise, and you'll see other people taking teams up as well. Any unfilled positions, any GMs that aren't there at the starting time will just be AI. But it gives you a really interesting sort of collaborative mock draft result. And you can do anything from 1 round to 7. So loads of fun.
I think for this one, and this is always my favorite one GM to rule them all, where you can essentially be every GM for every single team and see what happens. I think for this one, should we go with purist where we can decide what's a fair trade, or would you like to go for standard where they can decide?
I like the standard, to be honest, because I really like the way that it incorporates the trade values in there, and it also gives a nice view to the viewers of what our picks are worth relative, and actually what it takes to get a good deal done.
Let's go trading places then. So trading places, and this runs off an engine where it tells you exactly what your pick is worth and sort of what you should be offering up to try and get that trade. Obviously, we'll go Seahawks, and then we will see what we can do with this. We'll go for the default ranking because we've not done our own rankings yet, but that's something Mitch and I will do at some point. And then, as you can see, lovely interface. So shall we start the draft? And before anyone mentions anything, I can guarantee Caleb may not go 1. Because every time I've used this, he goes like 2nd or 3rd. But let's see. We skip to our pick. There you go.
Dallas Turner went number 1. Yeah. What is going on with the Bears?
So, if we're looking at ours, and anyone that's listened to us or watched us live will know that I am a fan of the trade back, because I see so much value in trading back. Look at, you've got Mitchell, you've got Terry and Arnold, you've got Fashanu, you've got Fuaga, Murphy, Latu. They're all still there. So anyone you may want in the franchise are all still there. And this first round, I think there's so many options. Mitch, what do you think we're going to do? Especially looking at the top 30 visits we've had. Who do you think, or what's the tactic?
I think I think trading back is A1 is strategy A1.
Mhm.
So if you were to click on the
View
wide
trade
receiver,
partners. Oh,
before we do,
sorry.
if you click wide receiver and then click cornerback, and then possibly O-line as well, just to see what is currently there that people might be coming up for. So we've got Quinion Mitchell, who's CB1, not QB1, unless he's got some skills we don't know about. Olu Fashanu is Olu Fashanu is close to being tackle number 1 in an extremely good draft class. Olu Fashanu might actually be a top 5 offensive tackle in most years, just not this year because of Joel. Fuaga's still there.
Latham, I'm pretty sure we had like Dejean.
Who's the highest? Who's highest rated wide receiver that we come to?
Fatanu's still there. Mims, Powers, Johnson. I think. Can I just say, like that's for me. It speaks to the fact that this is such a heavy O-line class when you see so many of them mocked that high. If we're looking at wide receivers, your next pick is going to be Mitchell, Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah. So I don't with Adonai Mitchell being the current highest rated wide receiver on the board. I don't like the Kansas City trade up, and I don't like the Bills potential trade up. If Brian Thomas Jr. was there suddenly, or Keon Coleman, I feel a little bit more like that's likely. Chop Robinson went before us as well. We've had a run on edges.
I suppose Brian Thomas Jr. went to the Bears at 19, who obviously traded back.
Yeah,
no, they didn't trade back. That was at 9. So I've not got my glasses on.
Yeah, and then Joe Alt went at number 10, which starts the run on the O-line. So who wants to come up and take Olu Fashanu? Are we looking at Green Bay replacing David Bakhtiari? Are we looking at the Cowboys potentially coming up? Because they are very O-line needy. So
if we tried Green Bay,
yep,
we could go.
It could be the latter of the 2 round 2s, I think.
If we went first and second, we'd have to give up quite a bit to match that value.
Yeah. We'd have to throw in another pick, wouldn't we? And Denver haven't got anything. I don't know why that amuses me so much, but it did. It's just chuckling here.
Well, because they're just a franchise in disarray right now. That's why it amuses me. But it's my favorite trade partners. You can go for Detroit. You could have a first, a second, and well,
it could take
an extra.
Yeah, we could take fifth actually. Yeah,
I think that's. I've said this before. I think Detroit are in that. We've got the players, we've got the team. All we need is an extra piece. And if they see a player in this position, they could move up and go, right, we're ready to win now. I love Dan Campbell. I think he's one of those new age coaches who has brought such a fire to such a dwindling organization that
they're transformed. Yeah. And they've suddenly fallen into a win now kind of scenario. So I do like the idea of them being hyper aggressive to add a starting caliber player to a Super Bowl contending roster.
But what would you do? Would you keep it at first, second, and fifth, or would you chuck one of ours in as well, like a 6th or a 7th, to keep it realistic?
Yeah, I would do a pick swap with that 5th. I would say our 7th goes in and we take the 5th. I think that balance is that's just a sweetener, I think, for us and them. I think that works.
Yeah. All right. So accept that one.
Yeah, I think so. Makes a lot of sense.
Excellent. Let's go. And then
and they took Terry and Arnold as well, which is exactly the pick I would say they are likely to make.
100%. And then you look at who went after him. So
started an absolute run on corners, didn't it? Because Kamari Laster's gone off the board as well.
Latu's gone to the Rams, which I think every single draft engine I use, he seems to land there, which I think is probably a really good spot for him.
Terrifies me though.
Ditto. He's one of my guys. Spinal injuries unite, but yeah, that. And then you've got Mitchell, wide receiver, Pittsburgh, which surprises me because I think it might be DeJean or DeJean, unless he's gone before. No, he's not.
No, I think he'll come off now. We've seen a lot of calling. Oh, there he went. He went to the.
I went to the Cardinals. Ugh. Him and Buda Baker. No thanks. Right, so we are here at pick 29, and we've still got Fatanu. It's surprising to me how many draft engines I use where he falls all the way back here. And I think this is probably our third mock on our pod where we've managed to get him in the later rounds.
Yeah, JC Latham. JC Latham going to the Cowboys, as I said, they are a franchise massively needing O-line. The fan base seem to be really high on Mims for the Cowboys, which I can very much understand because the man's a monster. I think he's 6'8" or 6'7.5".
He's just a very large human being.
He's a player you've created on Madden for your career, mate. It's not a logical size for a human. But them taking an OT absolutely makes sense. Jordan Morgan going as well before Fatanu doesn't make any sense, or Mims, but this is where we are. So,
well, if we're looking at our top 30 visits and who's come in, obviously next week will be a totally different kettle of fish because we'll have more visits going on. From our list, Mitch, and bear in mind, top 30 visits for the Seahawks don't really mean a lot.
Well, Fatanu's been, and so has Penix, but they did the local day, which is a different event to the 30 visits. So they have been in the building to reunite with a few Washington coaches. So I think we can consider them in the same conversation. But Byron Murphy's gone, right?
I believe so. If we go D-line.
It is a heartbreaker, I'll be honest, because I really wanted to cement the fact that I'm really in on Byron Murphy now, but that's okay. I mean, Fatanu's still there by some wave of a miracle. Although, Johnny, do we stick to the strategy we previously discussed and take D-line here because D-line depth in rounds 2 and 3 just isn't there? And then take the best OT available or O-line prospect?
I think so, because otherwise I think that people in the comments may be like, you're not even following what you're saying. I think someone that's been heavily linked with us due to our needs, and when you look at like our interior O-line or interior D-line, Johnny Newton, I think he's going to reunite with Spoon and hopefully create that amazing tandem that we really need at pass rush.
Yeah, the Legion of Spoon.
So
I need them in matching shirts with the Legion of Spoon on them.
There you go.
Need it.
12 Talk podcast t-shirts coming soon. Right, Johnny Newton. Are we going to go Johnny?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's lock it in.
There you go.
I love that.
So we pick Johnny Newton there at 29 after trading back, and then Powers Johnson's actually gone to the Panthers in this. Fatanu gone to the Pats. Ugh. And then Bo Nix has gone to the Cardinals.
Wow. That's horrible.
Because of all the faith they've got in Kyler Murray. Right. And then if we carry on going down, so Tavondre Sweat, someone that we had on the top 30 visit, he's gone. Anyone else that's on there, they're on the top 30. I think we're good. Oh, Xavier Legette has gone to the Buffalo Bills. One of my favorite people in this draft. I love him as a wide receiver, mainly just due to his interviews.
I knew you were going to mention the accent.
I love how I can't help it. Yeah, it's just run, Xavier, run. I think it's brilliant. And when you watch his tape as well, he's just him, like Spencer Rattler, I think having him as a receiver excelled because he knew where he was and what he could do.
Yeah, he was able to throw it up there and keep it out of reach of intercepting DBs for the first time in his college career, which made life a little easier, I think.
Maturity, that is. That's another one of our top 30 visits, Spencer Rattler. So if we look at who's on the board now, so top of the board, who it seems to be that there's a pattern emerging here with who we get, and that if we trade back and get a second, who we tend to get. And I'm really high on Junior Colson. I think that he could be transformative in our linebacking sort of unit. When you look at who we've got, I think he could be in a rotation for a year and just carry on improving. Because he came in with Mike Mack and Sean, and he's continued to shine. But who else we got? So we've got TJ Tampa.
Is Mike Samra still there as well? And that's an interesting one because he was interviewed by the Seahawks at the Combine, is widely considered to be the defensive mouthpiece and leader of an extremely good Michigan defense that was coordinated by our head coach. So Mike Samra still is a guy that is held in enormous regard. If there was a way to pick up Junior Colson and Mike Samra still in the same draft, I think Mike Mack would be absolutely dancing, knowing that is the future heart of his defense.
I think Mike Mack would just be the he'd become that meme of Stan's dad from South Park.
We can't go into too much detail about that.
Yeah. I'm not going to show. We're a family show. But yeah, for any of the mums and dads or anyone else that's watching, you know, if we're going to look at but for what we were saying about our draft strategy, looking at, so we're taking our D line, and then if we got to the second round, looking at who's there, I really want to take Junior Colson, but then again, your man is there, Cooper Beebe, who obviously his dad is your friend on X.
Yeah, it's not. I don't want to draft him because of bias. Yeah. I think we've got an absolute glaring need for a versatile starting quality lineman. But yeah, shout out Tom Beebe, KC Gorilla on X, who only gives a like and a share on my mock drafts when I pick his son. Understandable, to be honest. Yeah, it's a heartbreaker, this one, because Junior Colson and Mike Samra still would be great picks, but we have just put a absolute defensive corner. Oh no, we took Fatanu, didn't we? Oh no, we took Newton. We took Newton. Yeah, we've just stuck a really important defensive piece in the middle of the D line, and O line. I think now has to be the next large investment of our draft capital in 2024.
I also think so that there's been, and I might get a lot of hate for this on social media, but for all the stats that Bobby and Jordan Brooks put up about all their tackle count and everything, the reason their tackle count was so high was because our D line was awful. The reason people slate Geno is because he doesn't have time to make the right reads. He can literally make 2 reads and just try and throw or get sacked. We need to start building a D line, and that Mike Mack said is going to be an impenetrable run defense, and an O line to give Geno the time to make these reads and throw to his receivers. I think the first pick we made with Johnny Newton is the stepping stone to that with our D line. I think the second pick we make here needs to be a premium O-line player that, whether they sit behind Tomlinson for a season or they rotate, don't care. I think BB is the guy for me.
I agree. I agree. I think we said we'd take the best O lineman. I'm really chuffed he's still there because he would have been, other than someone falling, maybe like Graham Barton, but Graham Barton's now seen more as a back end of the first round, early second round player. So yeah, this is a great pickup. And one thing I'm just going to add in, right? Just sorry, I know you were just about to add something as well. We're in danger of Tyler Lockett retiring as a Seahawk, playing his entire career without ever playing on an offense with a top with a top 15 O line.
Just imagine. And
DK, it's madness. And DK may not be on the roster for much more than the next 3 years. I think this next contract we offer, whether he signs it or not, he could end up being traded to someone for a ransom for the sort of prime part of his career, the 28 to 31 part. So let's give enough protection to a quarterback to actually, throw some high quality balls on a high number of targets to the players that are, very good wide receivers.
Do you know that there's going to be fans, including myself, weeping about the fact that we pass over Junior Colson, but Cooper Beebe, I'm more than happy with. So here we go. Ready for the social media hate, Mitch?
Yeah, I'm absolutely ready. I get it anyway.
I'm ready for the comments.
But I will say this though, right? Would you rather have Furtado and Colson or Jazan, Newton, and Beebe? And if you are someone that prefers the other way that we didn't go, you surely can't have that much conviction that it is that much better. If you think it's better, it's not by much. That's two different ways to do it, and I think it's the logical way because the DT depth isn't there in this class, and the O line depth is. I think that makes the most sense if you can do it that way. Personally,
do you know what? I am that guy. I'd rather have Patano and Colson. And this is what makes our pod so interesting. Because as much we get on, that'd be my picks. I just want a linebacker for the future that can command our defense, that can be that guy. But this draft that we've done here, I completely understand. I'm on board with as well. If this happens in real life, I'm all about it. So let's skip to our pick and see who's there.
Junior Colson going to the Niners, by the way. Was literally the worst thing.
I think I would be sick at that time.
Yeah, no. I'm not pleased.
Right, so
should have seen that coming.
Second on this list is someone we've got that you mentioned earlier for our top 30 visits, Malachi Corley. So if anyone's just tuning in, Mitch, do you want to give some stats about Corley and where he may fit in here?
Yeah, so Malachi Corley had a better year in 2022 than he did this year, when he really exploded with an absolute ton of yak. I think it was 1,300 yards, and 300 or 400 of those were yak. He's widely considered to be the most dangerous wide receiver with the ball in hand. Think the same profile as D. Eskridge when we drafted him. It was a guy that transformed from a wide receiver to a running back with the contact balance and one person not being enough to stop him, and wriggly, shifty, he'll juke you out of your cleats kind of open field threat. However, we now have we have Laviska Shenault now, who is a similar thing. We've got Eskridge on a 1-year deal. We've got him in on an interview to obviously check the character. I think we're checking boxes, honestly.
Jonathan Brooks is there as well.
Jonathan Brooks is there.
If we were running back needy,
I'd jump at that.
I would run to that podium. But
there's going to have to be someone really outstanding to take me off Kalen Bullock here, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, and there is. Yeah. There's a trotter there.
Yeah. This is where I look at it, and we've got McMillan,
Van Pran,
Jaden Hicks. There you go. We've taken Jaden Hicks a couple of times. I love Cole Bishop.
This might be the time we draft Cole Bishop. I don't think we've done it yet on the pod.
No, we've not. Cade Stover's there, Braylon Allen, Blake Fisher, Pooney's there. Kyrie, I love Kyrie. As a Ducks fan, I love Jackson. And then there you go, another one of our top 30 visits. Theo Johnson's there. But I honestly, as much we've had him in for a top 30 visit, and we said it earlier, I don't think it's worth spending this draft capital on someone like Theo Johnson, because we've got Fant tied into a 2-year deal. Yeah, see, for me, I think it'd be Kalen Bullock at this point.
It's going to be Kalen Bullock for me as well. And I'll tell you why it's Kalen Bullock for me. Of all the free agents that we've picked up to patch up the roster, the one that I think is with us for the least amount of time, where there is a more glaring need, is that free safety position. And I know we're going to be playing 2 high safeties, and the strong safety role isn't going to exist really in our system, because there'll be 2 high safeties. Sometimes they'll both be close, and one of them will be blitzing and one of them will drop. There's no clear line between the strong safety, free safety. However, you do still want a guy to specialize, and Bullock is an absolute ball hawk on the back end. He's got superb ball skills. I like Kalen Bullock here as the Rayshon Jenkins backup, because that is where there's going to be a starting position urgently within 2 years, and I think he could just seamlessly take over.
Agreed. I mean, I'll take him here, but just want to say my piece on it. I think the safety position in this defense, with what Mac might want to do, is going to be so fluid with our linebackers that you're not going to know. So I think body type and sort of metrics wise, you'll probably see very much the same all across. I think you're going to look at these speedy guys who are slightly shorter with a very stout build, great tacklers, fundamentals fantastic, who will just shift all the way through. And
yeah,
I think
the only thing I will
go on.
You finish, and I'll add.
No, I was going to say, I think that's the way this defense is going to hopefully revolutionize what happens with defense. It's not going to be set positions. It's going to be very fluid in how it works. But I think Kalen Bullock, the future of this, might be the right choice, because I think he'll be able to slot through.
You've talked me out of the pick.
Oh, mate. Don't you dare say Bullock.
Just because one of the reasons why I like him as a free for this pick is that we need that free safety. But actually, hearing you speak, there are better rounded skill sets on safeties in this class that will be able to blitz, play safety in the box, ball hawk on the back end as a high safety as well. It's not Jaden Hicks for me. It's Cole Bishop. Yeah, honestly, I know you've talked me into it, because I just think if you're looking at the most rounded skill set of all those safeties, that's the guy. That's the guy.
But then, do we look at realistically where we are?
I reckon we trade. Should we? Yeah, we trade back. I think we trade back maybe 20 spots. We trade back up 20, 15, maybe 10, 15, and then we take.
Oh, Mitch, me and you might have an internet fight here.
Why? What are you saying?
I think 15 might be too much. I think maximum of 10 to try and get him.
Well, yeah, okay. I'll meet you there. I think we might be all right with that. So who's 10 spots back?
That is a very good question. Let's have a look. So if we go to here, so 17, right? So we go 27 is Green Bay, obviously, with all their picks. Arizona, I don't think they would have taken a safety.
Tampa Bay are picking twice in this round, so I think we might be able to get them to come up. not that they're going to trade both their picks in this round. Don't get me wrong, but they're already picking. So maybe pick up 7th because we traded ours away, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, that seems a reasonable trade. If we trade our 3rd for their 3rd, and then we get the 4th by the point scoring, which is Jimmy Johnson point scoring metrics, I think. So ours is worth 185, and theirs, if we go for their 3rd, so which is 325, and then their 4th, which is 425, their total is 192. Should we go for it and try it?
Yeah, go for it. I think it's fine.
Go. Right. Sweet. Yeah, they accepted. Right.
Okay, so let's hope Cole Bishop. Well, I mean, whatever happens, but there's going to be good safeties on the board, whether it's Hicks there or Jalen Bullard's still there. That's hilarious. That doesn't simplify it at all. No.
And Bishop's gone. So Bishop went to the Texans because they need more help.
But I now like the top 2, and I like Jaden Hicks more. Do I though? No, I think we'd maybe just go Bullard then.
What's a big board? Corley's still there, then Bullard, then Trotter. So I think Bullard is the one there because I think he's probably the most coachable one to be able to have that fluid position. So
it's got those instincts ball hawking as well. Right. I think he plays on automatic a lot of the time.
Yeah. So Javen Bullard, tackling wise, I'm still a bit iffy.
Yes, me too. Me too.
Tommy Eichenberg, I see him very much as a Cody Barton 2.0 going to the Commanders. But right, where are we? Right. Well, so we're here at pick 4-2. So 2nd pick in the 4th round.
It's interesting. Oh, Dominic Puny's there. That's
Puny's there, but so's Theo Johnson. If we're looking at our top 30 visits, not that they hold a lot of stock.
No, I think you might be on something there. DJ James is a guy we spoke to at the Combine, right? From Auburn.
I believe so.
That would be another one for Spoon. Oh, imagine Spoon. 3 of them in the Legion of Spoon there.
T-shirts coming soon. Mahogany's still there. Leonard Taylor, my guy. He's dropped all the way to the 4th. Wow. Johnny Wilson from Florida State has dropped to the 4th as well.
Well, if we're thinking about what helps us most this year, tight end goes a little bit out of importance for me. We've just addressed safety. Linebacker's an obvious concern now, and so is O-line talent. Dominic Puny's a guy who has NFL starting level talent.
Do you know, weirdly, I look at this and I see Blake Fisher. I think tackle is. I love Stone Forsyth, and if he ever watches this, just know this: I love you. But you've got a way to go as a starting caliber tackle in the NFL. This is why I look at someone like Blake Fisher, who started at Notre Dame for a long time, consistent. He'd be a good backup. He can play both, I believe, as well. But then Puny or Mitch, I'll leave this to you. You are a draft guide.
You've got both there. You've got a tackle that can kick inside, and then you've got a guard that can kick out in Puny. So, with that in mind, take DJ James. Yeah, for me it's Puny. But that is basically based on Abraham Lucas being okay, and I think signs at the moment are quite positive that he's going to at least be ready to start camp. So,
well, let's see what linebackers are there that we can pick up later. Wallace.
What's the number now? Where are we?
So we're at just 4, 2nd pick.
Okay. just putting a pin in Jaden Ford, because that would be an absolute worldie of a pick if he's there.
We've got 3 picks in this round. So we've got the 2nd, the 18th, and the 25th. I think Ford is definitely going to be there by the 18th, possibly the 25th.
Yeah.
I really like the Arpo. Hopper's there.
Yeah. Tyrese Knight, who we've interviewed.
And Watson is there as well. I think we can put a pin in linebacker for now.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Puny is the pick. And then we go from there. All right.
I also love the ironic name of a massive bloke with the name of Puny. Yeah.
We need to find out if it's Puny or Pooney. Right. And there you go. Top of the board.
Yeah,
you're really going to have to convince me not to take one of these 2. Come on, Mitch. Who have we got?
It's Taylor for me. I think that's fallen brilliantly for us. Just think, plugging Taylor and Johnny Newton into a D line in the same draft.
Yeah, there's
no brainer.
Taylor, you've got Dwayne Carter, you've got Estime, you've got Kalen Carson. I don't think we need a cornerback. I'll be very honest. I think we've got a great cornerback room. You've got Marquise Irving, go Ducks. Rosen Garten's there. It's got to be Taylor. If Taylor falls this low,
lock it in. And I'll say this as well: if you put Newton and Jaron Reed and
Draymond Jones,
Big Cat as well. You've got you've got a lot of players there that need specific attention on that D line. I think the edges feast in a D line with those kind of players. Honestly,
right. So we are now at pick 425. Well, round 4, pick 25.
Special shout out here very quickly for Odrick Estime going to the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
Odrick Estime is an extremely exciting running back. He's got a perfectly balanced blend of power and speed that he reminds me of. He doesn't quite have the same home run hitting speed, but oh my god, I'm really struggling on names today. Our running back that went to the Eagles this year and just didn't play.
Rashard Penny,
bigger bodied running back with a blend of speed and power that can run it up the gut and punish the defenders, and also someone that can kick outside and really rip off big yards. Odrick Estime is a great watch, and they clearly need weapons. Just honestly, what a pickup that is!
What a wealth of talent now. It's ridiculous. And then this is what I love about the NFL, where obviously we're a UK-based podcast, and my friends like to ask me why I love the NFL so much. And it's I said it before, the peaks and troughs, and I'll keep using this. So you can have a franchise that is desolate for so many years, and it takes 1 or 2 draft picks to turn it round, and then you go, oh, well, they've actually got all of this in cap as well, and then that cap gets spent wisely, and now they're here. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's actually sorry to carry on from your point. It's actually one of the reasons why I love the draft as much as I do. Is as someone that struggled with mental health, it's always good to be convinced that when you've had a really difficult time, there is going to be some positivity coming. And I think that really resonated with me with the NFL, in that you could have the stinkiest season imaginable, unless you're the Panthers and you've given away your first round pick. But you could have the worst year, and you've got that on the horizon coming to give you hope. And it's everything you need when you're really suffering with mental health, is to know that something good is coming. And that's why it resonates with me, and that's why I love the draft.
There you go. That's the message for this pod. If you are suffering from anything mental health wise, something good is always around the corner. Massive advocate for that. Positive mental attitude, PMA. My wife's got it tattooed on her. And that's what I live by as well. PMA, positive mental attitude, something's always better around the corner. Speaking about that, what's around the corner for us? McKinley Jackson's there, but we've just taken another D-line.
Do you know what's funny about this draft? Actually, we're weirdly overly stocked on D line and O line now. We've got too many. So get rid of some of these free agents we've picked up.
Right. So who are we going to reach for? Because let's face it, at this point, we're not going to trade back again. We're just going to reach. If I go linebacker,
I think we have to address it, and we've got the pick of some really intriguing prospects here. I would say if you go all and then click linebacker, it should. There you go.
There you go. Wallace, Jacobs, Ford, Diafu, Hopper. Oh, Watson's still there.
I honestly think we go linebacker with the next 2 picks. And I think, I love him. He's so good. He is a special will linebacker.
Hit our viewers with, if you've got any stats, hit them.
Oh God! Well, I didn't prepare any, but I mean they're on the screen. If you can see them there, but you can see it's Sackles.
It's late in the UK, people.
Yeah, it is. 101 tackles from will linebacker, 1 sack, 2 interceptions, 2 passes defensed, 1 forced fumble in 1 year. And if you click on the pie chart to pull up the little diagram, you can see that the reason he is this far down is the lack of athletic testing. But he's a really instinctive, special talent when it comes to coverage. And he's still a guy that's really sure in the tackle. It's a perfect balance for what we need to inject into the roster. And the 2 linebackers we've picked up can do exactly what he can do, but they're veterans proving it on 1-year deals.
And look at that comparison.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And I'll tell you why that comparison's there. Because Junior Colson's in the same boat as a sure tackling linebacker without the athletic testing required to bump him up to first round status. Honestly, Jalen Ford is a special coverage linebacker. And I think we're lucky to get him there.
I don't even need you to say, yeah, take him. I'm just going to take him there. And you want to go linebacker? Oh, James Williams. I can't believe I forgot about him.
I'm not feeling that we necessarily needed that pick, but similar actually in some ways. James Williams has got the aggression, and he's a bit more of a fierce hitter. But Jalen Ford's more of a smooth operator. He's kind of a technique guy rather than an aggression. Probably not a Seahawks pick, to be honest. Maybe I've talked myself into
say like James Williams at safety with
Bullard.
Now the who is the other safety for the 49ers? I think it's Samoan or Tongan. I should know this.
Oh, mate,
that's going to annoy us all. If you know, pop it in the comments because we're having a brain fart. It's getting late in the UK. There we go.
There we go. Got there.
Right. So, are we going to go linebacker now?
I would say yes.
Okay.
And I know which one I'm going for as well. If you yes,
Watson. Yep.
And I'll tell you why. 198. Yes, it is. Yeah, we're going to take someone else in between, can't we? We can definitely take someone else in between.
See, I love Smith Wade. I also love Alex Hunt. And we've not taken an edge. And I think the rotation and edge just needs to be consistently churning. Hopper's there, Eric Hall's there, your man AJ Barner's there, Malik Mustafa's still there, Tip Raymond. We've got a wealth.
Yeah, we've got good picks coming up. I'm with you. If we go up, I think Jalix Hunt is the pick. Mm-hmm. We do need to plug an edge in, and he's the last chance for us to plug a proper exciting edge player into that rotation. Anyone else after this is going to be a bit of a couple downs a game kind of rotational backup if someone gets injured. This is a guy who can actually contribute as a proper rotational piece. So I really like that idea.
Right, and then we're back on the clock, and I think this is where we'll take another linebacker, and I think this might be where we'll take Watson.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why this is the guy for me over Tyrese Knight, right? I waxed lyrical about Tyrese Knight's filling up of the stat sheet earlier, 140 tackles and his sacks and his PDs and everything else. But the guy we've taken in Jalen Ford is the same kind of player, just slightly more polished. Nathaniel Watson is a tackle machine. And if you think about what Baltimore had, they still wanted to plug Roquan Smith next to Patrick Queen, so that they had two guys that could do both, but guys that specialized in different skills. This is the Roquan. I mean, he's not Roquan Smith. He's not a number 5 overall linebacker. Don't get me wrong, but stylistically, that is the position we're missing the most on the roster now, especially after this draft, because both the trenches look great. That is the perfect combination for the way this has fallen for us.
Right.
In my opinion.
So, Watson.
Yeah.
Well picked.
Green dot wearing player as well in college. So another good communicator and leader of men.
So now, if we get into the mind of John Schneider, these later rounds are all about need. So, pick round 6, pick 3. We picked Nathaniel Watson. We've got one pick left, which is pick 16 in the 6th round. Now, what do we do? Do we give Grubb his familiar weapon in Dylan Johnson? Do we go for one of my personal favorite wide receivers, Taj Washington? Do we go for the running back in the Dylan Laub or Laub, the running back from New Hampshire, who is going to essentially be a fullback in the NFL? Or do we pick something else? What do you think, Mitch? It's a difficult one, this. I mean, so far we've taken D-line in Johnny Newton, O-line in Beebe, safety in Bullard, another O-line in Pooney, another D-line in Taylor, a linebacker in Jalen Ford, an edge in Jalix Hunt, and then another linebacker in Nathaniel Watson.
I think we take the best tight end on the board, and I'll tell you why. We've got Tanner McLaughlin there, and we've got Brevin Spamford as well. Who's a little bit further down? Anyone else of any? Jack Westover, but McAllen Castles,
Trey Knox.
I tell you what, actually, Austin Stogner. Do you know who really didn't help Austin Stogner? Our mate, the quarterback at the Sooners. Oh, in this draft, we talked about him. He's had a visit. Spencer Rattler. What is wrong with me today? Yeah, Spencer Rattler didn't help Austin Stogner because he used to just launch balls at Austin Stogner and hope that Austin Stogner would get him out of problems, get him out of trouble.
I think in the UK, it's what we call a hit and hope. Like when you're playing pool or billiards, just smack it and just hope something goes down. Yeah. That was.
But I don't think that's. I don't know if that's the reason why he's number 400 on this board. I'm not putting all of that on Spencer Rattler, but certainly didn't help him raise up the board. But yeah, maybe tight end's not the one. I was going to make the point that with so many good wide receivers in this class, and I think it will be a record for the amount of wide receivers actually drafted in 1 year this year, and with the new kickoff rules, I think a higher level of undrafted free agent wide receiver will be there this year, and we had a couple of good ones on our roster last year.
Jaquan Jackson 30 with him.
We did indeed, yeah. So yeah. Jalen Calhoun as well.
Yeah.
Hayden Hatton as well. Big shout out for Hayden Hatton.
That's UDFA territory there.
All of that is, yeah.
I think if I'm looking at this board now, and he's top there anyway, it's Washington. It's Taj Washington. had a fantastic Shrine Bowl. Just the ball just seemed to stick to his gloves. His roots were really, really crisp.
After what happened with Coulson earlier on, you can have this pick. It's over to you.
Oh, don't, because it's between him.
I need to get some brownie points back because that literally backfired so badly.
Like a Sith Lord, the hate was running through me when you told me not to pick Coulson.
I can feel it.
Yeah. See, for me, it's Washington or Dylan Johnson here, and we picked Johnson before because I gave Grubb his present. But I love Washington. I think he's a fantastic and really underrated wide receiver. And based on what we've said about Lockett, and this may be his last season or next season might be his last season, I think we need to start blooding some of these wide receiver prospects and giving them the options and the chances. I'm picking Washington.
Go for
it. That's it. Done. And I say it says skip to our pick, but we haven't got any more left. So we'll let this play through and see who's Mr. Irrelevant. He's going to be picked by, in this, the Jets, who've got the last 2 picks. It is Isaiah Williams, the wide receiver from Illinois. Great mock. Thank you.
Great mock.
Doc Brown.
Yeah.
So let's just review this. So the top 10 in any like draft mock engine is just everywhere regardless. But we got with round 1, pick 29, after trading back, we got Johnny Newton, D-line from Illinois. In the second round, with pick 29, we picked Cooper Beebe, interior O-line from Kansas State. At 3, pick 25, Javen Bullard, the free safety / roaming safety is going to be now from Georgia. Round 4, pick 2, we got Dominic Pooney, the interior O-line from Kansas. And at round 4, pick 18, Leonard Taylor, my guy from the U. 4, pick 25, we got Jalen Ford, linebacker from Texas. And then at round 5, pick 29, Jelix Hunt, the edge from Houston Christian. And then we go to round 6, pick 3, we got Nathaniel Watson. I don't know how he's fallen that far, linebacker from Mississippi. And then in final pick in round 6, we got Taj Washington, the wide receiver from the University of UCS. I don't know, it's the Spartans. Sorry, Lofa, I apologize. But yeah, let us know what you thought about that. If it was any good, if you agree with our strategy on that. We tried to go through the top 30 visits and pick who was there. I quite like that. I think we've picked a lot of positions of need. And as we've said for the last, couple of weeks on this pod, this is not going to be a 1-year rebuild. We're going to win the Super Bowl. With a brand new head coach, new schemes, new systems, we need to pick new players that will come straight into this franchise and then start learning straight away this season. And next season, we'll get some more that'll do the exact same thing. Mitch, what would you rate our mock? Go on, selfishly, as you did it.
I guided it my way quite a lot, and I had my way. So if I don't give this an A+, I'm an idiot. So it's a really strong mock. I think it's really good. There's not much I'd change, to be honest. Well, I would say this, right? We already know that we've got a really talented corner room, and what we've added to the back end in the safety, in our safety, and with the coverage ability of the linebackers we've taken, and then the added pressure we're going to have up front with a really, really high quality D-line with really good talent behind it. Man, I think we're going to rush the quarterback better than we have done in previous years with that draft, and have better quality on the back end to feast off rushed, slightly less accurate throws. I think it's really good. I think it adds what was been missing a lot in previous years.
Agreed. Also, University of Southern California. There we go. Came to me. Like I said, for anyone watching, it is late in the UK. It's been a long old day. I've got a 4-year-old child who saps all of my energy. She is an energy vampire. But I quite enjoyed that. I'm really hoping sort of for next week we'll do another mock using Walk the Mock, and I'm really hoping after these top 30 visits we get a bit more review as to who we're looking at. I don't hold a lot of stock in the top 30s because, well, let's face it, we don't tend to draft a lot of them. But for anyone that's tuning in live, I want to say a massive thank you from me, from Mitch. It means the world to us because from two guys from the UK, I know some people are a bit skeptical, but we like to think we know what we're talking about. If you like what we've done, please like, subscribe, hit that bell, share us with whoever you want to, whether it's on a Facebook group, on X. You can follow us on X, on Instagram, at 12 Talk Pod. We're on YouTube as well if you're watching on there. Thank you very much. If you like what we've done, by all means, buy us a coffee or a beer. I'm currently drinking a beer because it's a Sunday night, and why not Sunday fun day? But yeah, Mitch is probably on his standard Diet Coke because let's face it, at the height of 7'8", he doesn't need to get any bigger.
True.
Yeah, but what you see right there is Mitch on his lowest possible thing on his chair, because otherwise
it actually is.
Yeah.
I do actually say it's honestly it's on the floor. I feel like I'm sat in an F1 car.
He's basically the mountain from Game of Thrones. And don't forget, if you want to interact with us and anyone else who's a fan, a Seahawks fan or a pod fan, join our Discord. I'll make a concerted effort to get back in there a bit more. But if not, Mitch is always there, and he's happy to argue with anyone with in a very reasonable manner. If he doesn't, other people have to have that conversation. And if you like what we did on Walk the Mock, get on Walk the Mock. If you want to subscribe, do it. It's our favorite draft engine, and let's face it, none are perfect at the moment, but it's the closest we've found so far. If you want to subscribe for an annual or a monthly subscription before the mock, it's my preference, or during the year, use code 12talk at checkout and you will get 20% off. Can't say fairer than that, can you? But apart from that, Mitch, is there anything you'd like to say to our lovely viewers? Thank you very much for everyone who's joined in.
Yeah, I'd like to make an apology for last week. I know there's not, if there is anyone watching to the end of this pod that tuned out last week when my PC blue screened in the middle of hosting a Walk the Mock on our live stream. Yeah, I apologize for that. It's a minor technical hitch. It's a very good PC as well. It shouldn't be doing that. But yeah, thanks. It is. Thanks for coming back this week and giving us another chance if you did anyway. So yeah. Apologies and thank you for coming back.
It's fine. You can find the pod edited without the blue screeny Mitch, really weird face, just staring intently at you. Yeah. Do you want to give us another show of that? If you've enjoyed, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in. We really appreciate it. We've got some fantastic guests coming up. We've got some amazing mocks to come up. We're hosting a live draft party as well on the first day of the draft. And I'm pretty sure, Mitch, you will be on there for the majority of the draft, won't you?
Yeah, I will be. I'll be in our Discord for the whole thing. Also, it'll be every day, and in the lead up to the draft as well. On day one, I'll be in our Discord. So if you want to come in and discuss rumors, maybe there's some trades, maybe the first overall gets traded, we'll be there kicking around in the Discord. So come and join us. Come and talk Seahawks, and see you next week.
Nice. Right, for me, for Mitch, I was going to say, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Have an amazing weekend. Peace.